I believe there were any problems. The Queen is not ruling the Americas, and that is all I have to say.
Problems in the Senate. I'd like to start off by saying that the EVP has four main roles. The first is to chair the Senate. The second is to sit on the store operations board. Third, allocate student space, and fourth is to do the website. So the websites have a lot of issues this year. If you Google ASUC website, you'll see a bunch of other old websites come up. That's a pragmatic issue. Big problems occur when you have a partisan chair. And as a third-party candidate that's currently on the Senate, I'm uniquely suited to be the EVP of the Senate. I believe that every hour the Senate wastes talking about $50 of partisan issues to student groups is an hour that students are not dealing with relevant issues on our campus and in our state. This includes operational excellence, the UCDP policies, student conduct issues, all of which I've been actively involved in championing this year. I think the EVP needs to work to actively facilitate the Senate outside of Senate space. So by the time you have a dispute over funding, I'll reach out to dissatisfied parties outside of the formal space, come up with a solution that doesn't require that all of your student groups come to the Senate at 9 o'clock and stay for 3 hours while we discuss $80. That to me is why the ASUC is irrelevant on this campus. And we really should be focusing on connecting all the different branches of the ASUC, the graduate assembly, the executive offices, and having the Senate space be a hub of information where senators are listening to you, not on their laptops when you're talking to them. So that's one thing that I would reform is laptop usage.
Hopefully, I don't need to remind anyone about the $15,000 misallocation of funds this year, but just in case, there you go. Other problems. Okay, UC Berkeley is the flagship school of the best public university system in the world. And as such, our ASUC needs to be doing absolutely everything possible to spearhead the fight for education. Right now, that's not happening. Okay, so we need an ASUC who is going to push the limits of student government, who is going to fund buses to Sacramento, who is going to organize protests, mobilize students, and reach out to the broader student community so that we can all come together and fight for the one goal we all have in common, and that is getting the adequate funds for public education. Okay, and ASUC is neglecting their leadership role. They need to take, the future ASUC needs to take a decisive position that they're going to lead students forward for the future of education in California. Another problem is getting students involved to going on the Senate. So that includes fixing the broken website that is not informing students of what's going on, and also reformulating how, like, the process, the overboard formalities are keeping students out and keeping students' voices not heard. So in addition to that, we should also be out on sprawl, actually meeting students face to face, talking to them about their concerns. We should have an open forum for especially undocumented students to voice their hardships so we can all come together and to help each other and support each other in the fight for higher education. I only believe it's appropriate to suspend the bylaws when they're infringing on things like free speech. The bylaws should not be competing with our own rights from the First Amendment and our rights as citizens of the United States. The bylaws should be facilitating a fair campaign and not infringing on our rights to get our message across and campaign for our fellow slate candidates. So, yeah, there was some controversy over the temporary laws with this election. I am glad that we were allowed to eventually use our funding to advocate for both of our campaigns for both Senate and executive positions. So I do think there should be more review in the future of the bylaws so that there isn't as much controversy.
So I think you're referring to the polling stations and how we had to suspend the bylaws because the election council chair wanted to put 6 polling stations around when the bylaws specify 8. However, I think we should not suspend the bylaws when it is for partisan gain and when it's motivated by political parties that end up dividing the student government. So I think the bylaws are very lengthy over the years. We add more to them than we subtract what isn't working. For example, the advocacy agenda doesn't actually happen in the ASUC every year. So that's a shame. I think we should really reconsider that and amend the bylaws. I also think that you should not suspend the bylaws unless you should not suspend the bylaws in a compromise that ends up hurting students. That, like, for example, the polling stations cost $1,000 to put a polling station by Echeverry, which is off campus, isolated, and clearly benefits a party with a constituency by that building. So to have a party that pushes for this, I think is unjustifiable. And I wouldn't stand for it as UVT. I'll tell you that.
As my own words would never surpass the Queen's, I am finished speaking.
I'd like to reiterate our party platform. We need to start a mass integrated student movement on campus with the leadership of the ASUC to fight for education, stop the budget cuts, no matter who is imposing them, Democrat or Republican. We need to advocate for passage of the DREAM Act so that all students of California, everyone who lives and works here, has a fair chance of coming and actually getting the world-class education that they earn. And also doubling minority student enrollment, because I don't think it's a question that they're underrepresented, whether they be Black, Hispanic, Asian Pacific Islander. We need to address this problem to have true public education in California.
So I'm Elliot Goldstein. I'm running for EVP. Well, why does that even matter? I mean, the ASUC is one of the smallest funded ASUCs out there. We have so many limitations. I commend everything you said, but the EVP's power doesn't extend to actually doing any of that. I think the ASUC actually can be really a relevant body on campus if we didn't have the games that were played at this debate right now. I'm really disappointed that we weren't actually able to address democratic dialogue here. And I think that you know, the ASUC's major thing is that it's independent, it's a 501c3. It can take policy stances against the university. Right now, you're so right, the university is being dismantled. The last thing was that, you know, we're getting down to the core services. What are those? What are our priorities? The ASUC should be part of that.